All right, welcome back. So for this final video, in the syllabus it says that it's going to be about academic versus personal integration. And I guess to start off, I want to say something, which is that I think that dichotomy, even though I put it in the syllabus, is actually a false dichotomy. The idea that there is a domain of life that is academic and then a domain of life that is personal is false. I actually would say that, Parker Palmer argues, and I've really absorbed it and feel like it was impactful to me, that learning should be a process of what he calls obedience. Um, and obedience has some negative connotations, but it's the idea like when you learn, it shouldn't just be up here in our head, or even just here in our heart. I would say that's good, but a full learning experience will involve obedience, or to say change in the way we act and behave and the way that we what we do in the world. And so I would say that all integration, or really all knowledge, is going to have a claim on our life. So if I learn in a classroom about good parenting skills, I haven't really learned it until I've actually put it into practice. Um, so the idea that I can have knowledge in my head, there's a sense that that's obviously true. We can have factual knowledge, but it's not the ultimate purpose of what learning should be. To kind of separate, oh, here's what I know in my head and here's how I live my life, is actually encouraging us to be divided, right? To not have integration. And I'm just talking about psychological knowledge. So if we're just absorbing psychological knowledge and we're learning it and it's all in our head, it's divided from the rest of our life. So Paul writes in 1 Corinthians 13 that if I had all the knowledge in the world, if I was able to prophesy and do so much, but I didn't have love, it would be worthless. So when I think about our learning in the classroom setting, outside of this, in different classes you've taken, when I think about it, I say, wow, if we really take Paul's words to heart, he's arguing that if we learn something but don't do it in a way that is loving, which is to say, a way that is put into practice, a way that is actually integrated and put into our life, then it's worthless. It's junk. It's not meaningful at all. And so I think that's important for us to really reflect on as we go about the integration process. So it's not about just simply having knowledge in our head about how theology is related to psychology. It's really saying, okay, when we bring these together, it allows us to have different responses to problems in the world around us. So when I encounter a person, um, in my previous work, I worked with heroin addicts receiving medication and counseling for their recovery. And when I encountered them, my integration work would say, okay, here's a person who has been shaped by traumatic experiences in their life, by their poverty, by their peer pressure, by their biological susceptibility to addiction. Right? I'm taking psychological perspectives, biological, social perspectives, and saying those are important. But I'm also thinking about them as responsible human beings and saying, okay, well, I'm not just going to simply, say, oh, they're stuck with where they're at. I'm also going to say, wow, there's hope because they are responsible for their actions, that God has given them some ability to direct their own lives in the way that He has called them to. So integration for me was taking all that knowledge, but also interacting with them in a way that was grace-filled, you know, being able to hear and appreciate the factors that helped form them, sometimes form them negatively into and their addiction, but also to kind of retain a sense of like, oh, this is a dignified human being in front of me who has value in the eyes of God, who has opportunity for change. So I think that for me, integration was always eventually personal integration. To say like when uh, I wanted it to translate into a different way of relating to the people that I was working with. And of course, I'm giving an example, a professional example, but I think this is true in our, in our relationships. So the way that you interact with your kids, you could take in Christian perspectives and psychological perspectives, integrate them and apply them to the way that you interact with your kids. Similarly, relationships. Some of my colleagues deal with prejudice in dating relationships and romantic relationships, and so there's a sense that integration would be about sort of identifying some of the biases that you have, and coming at your dating process a little bit differently and saying, oh, I think I need to give a person a chance who maybe has a physical disability to get to know them and have a little bit more openness to dating them and developing a relationship. And so I think that, again, integration is not going to eventually just be academic. Um, but the reality is, you have to admit, there's a way that there are some questions that feel pretty abstract, right? So when we talk about ontology or epistemology, it does feel pretty abstract. And so I think that we can appreciate the fact that there's some divisions there, that some things feel a little bit more removed from daily life than others. And and for me, again, I don't want to have the process in there, but I frankly I enjoy some of those metaphysical, abstract questions because I'm a person who likes that kind of ideas, and so depending on your personality and your past, you might really enjoy some of those questions. You might find it enlightening and challenging and groundbreaking in terms of asking some difficult questions. Um, but some of you, to be honest, might be a little bit more attracted towards the personal integration. And for me, I think that's great. Well, obviously it's great too because the personal integration is the true meat of what we want for this experience. We want you to be different people as a result of bringing psychology and Christianity together. And so obviously I think that's good. And what I think is even better is that God has created diversity in our interests, in our what we enjoy, so that some of us will be more attracted to the academic, some of us will be more attracted to the personal integration. Um, but in the end, I hope that we all have a place to say, what I want to do is be more of a whole person, to have this relationship, a deep relationship, to appreciate that these questions aren't just abstract questions, that they are meaningful questions about my relationship with God. When I think about God and my spirituality, I should be filled with a sense of awe at the way that He created the world, the way that He created me, my mind, my ability to grasp the nature of reality. It should help my relationship with God. It should help me, again, relate well with others. It should change the way I relate to the world around me, about the media that I might watch or things like that. And so again, I hope for you all that you have a sense of hopefully some enjoyment, perhaps really deep enjoyment of some of the academic abstract questions, but also that you have a commitment to saying, okay, this will impact me. I want to have a relationship with the things that I'm learning. I want to like savor them, enjoy them, taste and see that God is revealing Himself, and that God is going to satisfy some deep craving in you from this process. And so I hope that for you. And again, I think this is going to wrap it up for this week, the videos for this week. Hopefully you enjoyed them. Would love to know your feedback about watching them, and hope looking forward to this throughout the rest of the semester. Okay, have a great weekend.